unclear. The Prime Minister weighs in on parliamentarians meeting the deadline for public disclosure. Plus, this is Autism Awareness Month, and a local pediatrician is giving the facts on autism rates in the country. And later, our Joshua Williams takes a break from protecting the borders to explore one of the country's oldest lighthouse. These stories and so much more when our News Weekend returns. This is our News Weekend. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Megan Shepard. Well, it's still unclear if all Progressive Liberal Party members of Parliament met the March 1st deadline to declare their assets as mandated by law. The Public Disclosure Act, a legal anti-corruption mechanism, mandates that every senator and member of Parliament provide to the Public Disclosure Commission a declaration of assets, income, and liabilities up to December 31st by March 1st. When pressed by reporters, Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell said whether he declared was not their business. When asked, Prime Minister Philip Davis said he couldn't say if all his MPs met the deadline. However, he made it clear that he did.
I cannot say that. Those questions are asked you to direct to the commission itself, so they could determine what it is. I'm not at liberty to disclose the private affairs of my members.
Did you make the deadline?
I made my deadline.
Meantime, North Andros Christian Council President Raymond R. Neely issuing a stern warning that fires will not come from the ground but from above if authorities fail to properly equip North Andros with a working fire department and trained firefighters. This message comes as Neely claims Andros, home to 55% of the nation's pine forests, has faced fires nearly every day in April, with residents fighting to protect life and property. He says North Andros has been burning for approximately 10 to 12 days now. Neely says that this long-standing issue is a yearly occurrence and that while the fires have not claimed lives yet, many valuable properties have been destroyed as hard-working volunteer firefighters and members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force only have one operational fire truck in service to assist with their efforts. Outgoing U.S. Charge d'Affaires Usha Pitts has been in the Bahamas for just over 3 years. She's accomplished much during her tenure, which started in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. But there are some key highlights for the 26-year career diplomat. The first, welcoming U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris to the Bahamas in June 2023, the first time a high-ranking U.S. official had come to the Bahamas since 1963.
It was personally really, really exciting to have her come to the Bahamas. But from a point of view of our bilateral relationship, the important thing is that we had not had that level of visitor here in this country since 1963. So politically, it was incredibly tremendously important that she come here and talk about the U.S. commitment to the Bahamas and sort of reiterate the ties that bind our two countries. So yeah, huge high. I'll never forget standing on the tarmac out there at Lynden Pindling International Airport and welcoming, my vice president. It was an incredible moment.
Equally as important, or even more so, Pitts shared this proud moment with our news that happened during the COVID-19 pandemic.
There was another moment on the tarmac that was, I think, equally emotional for me, and that was much earlier, long before we knew Kamala Harris was going to come here. I mentioned we were in the middle of the COVID pandemic when I got here, and standing on the tarmac and waiting for that U.S. plane to fly in with the COVID vaccines and having them come out. There's only a few boxes. It's not like that wasn't physically that impressive, but standing next to them and knowing that, these vaccines were going to save lives and that they were a donation from my country to yours, that was incredibly important to me.
Well, earlier this week, we saw where the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the government are back at it again. This as the government claims the Port Authority owes them just over $300 million. The Grand Bahama Port Authority has denied those claims. Well, some in the business community in Grand Bahama now lending their voice to the public fight. Publisher and editor of the Grand Bahama News Courier, Fred Stirrup, says this present issue is an ongoing situation that is not in favor of the people of Grand Bahama, and both parties should prioritize the residents.
I think whatever is going on between the Port Authority and the government, they ought to try to reconcile it in the interests of the people of Grand Bahama. Quite frankly, people in this island are not pro or con. They're just about themselves getting together and the economy improving so they can have quality life, quality existence that we had prior to COVID and prior to 2019. It's very, very disheartening to a lot of people in Grand Bahama that this big fight is going on between the government of the Bahamas and the Grand Bahama Port Authority. People see no really good thing coming out of it for the residents of Grand Bahama because it's a power play.
But attorney Rangan Johnson supports government in their move against the Port Authority. She says government has given the GBPA ample time to pay what is owed to the country.
I'm very, very disappointed that the Grand Bahama Port Authority has not complied. Very, very well put together by the government by asking what is due to the country under the agreement. I have heard that the action taken by the Bahamas government may be negative. I do not agree on that. We have the right to ask what we're entitled to. And therefore, I'm hoping that rather than dealing with the 30 days, that the Grand Bahama Port Authority should take the request seriously and to pay what is due.
4 months into his new role as Director of Labor, and Howard Thompson says he's settling in well into his position. He assumed the position in December of last year following the departure of former Director Robert Farquharson. Thompson says he's excited about the future of the department.
Things gone very, very well, actually. I have great support, as you can see with my directors and my assistant directors with me. Most of my staff have been very helpful. We just continue to get the job done for the public.
As for the relationship between the Department of Labor and union heads, well, Thompson says that's also going very well.
I've been able to mediate with a lot of them. We have a good relationship with them. I think I bring a different perspective to the mediations, and it's going well. That has culminated in culmination of several trade union agreements being crystallized and executed since my 4 months as Director of Labor.
Prime Minister Philip Davis was among many who gathered at the Gladstone Road Farmers Market for the Agribusiness Expo. Davis says the expo is another critical step to promoting agriculture in the Bahamas. He says too little focus is placed on food production as a path to entrepreneurial success.
Many Bahamians are now seeing the vast potential. In many ways, this is also a throwback to years past. There was a time in our history, which we spoke about earlier, when both subsistence and commercial farming were not just commonplace, they were necessities. From our very early days as a colony and a nation, agriculture was a part of the Bahamian culture.
Davis, alongside Agriculture Minister Jomo Campbell, visited multiple stalls at the expo showcasing locally grown produce as well as products. Campbell says the expo seeks to raise awareness about locally grown produce and provides an opportunity to interact with experts and explore opportunities.
You can learn about sustainable farming practices and market trends that are shaping the future of agriculture and fisheries in the Bahamas. Additionally, the expo also displays the remarkable and creative works of men and women involved in the handicraft industry, which continues to be an essential portion of our tourism product and economy. I encourage food producers to network with fellow attendees, exhibitors, and potential partners. You can exchange ideas.
When our news weekend comes back from the break, great news for the nation's second city, as a long-standing eyesore could soon see a major redevelopment. Plus, a local pediatrician breaking down the autism rate now being seen here in the Bahamas. That's coming up when our news weekend returns.
Are you or a loved one under medical care? Do you need affordable medical supplies? Ports International is the largest home healthcare supplier. Medical supplies at the very best price. And you can even shop online. From hospital beds to wound care, wheelchairs to walkers, Ports is a one-stop shop for your medical supplies, and we accept insurance. We have online shopping and 2 locations to serve you, at the Airport Industrial Park and Shirley Street. We also ship to the Family Islands. Shop online and visit us on Facebook. Call Ports at 377-1771.
The International Bazaar in downtown Freeport could see a much-needed facelift, according to Prime Minister Philip Davis, who says the space will be turned into an African marketplace. His comments came at the Memorandum of Understanding signing with the government and the Afrexim Bank. The bank's forum is expected to be held in the Bahamas this June.
The International Bazaar that was in Grand Bahama, to reconfigure that, to make it into a marketplace, an African marketplace, to be a hub for logistical distribution of African goods, African culture, etc. And that is well on the way with the African Bank.
Davis says the bank has also assisted with helping farmers and other business ventures through the Bahamas Development Bank. Minister for Grand Bahama Ginger Moxie says Grand Bahama will be the hub for the rest of the region. She says the project is currently in the design phase.
Grand Bahama being the gateway to the Caribbean and having our major transshipment terminal, we're able to have these products that come into the region for redistribution to the rest of the world. Of course, Grand Bahama will soon have, at least by the year 2028, 5 million cruise passengers between the Celebration Key cruise port as well as the Royal Caribbean MSC port that's going to be done in the harbor. What a better opportunity than this Afro-Caribbean marketplace that will be on Grand Bahama Island.
In the United States, boys are nearly 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than girls. And now a local pediatrician is saying a similar rate is being seen here in the Bahamas. We spoke to pediatric consultant at Kids First Pediatrics, Dr. Deshaun Saunders, this Autism Month, who describes the differences between boys and girls being diagnosed with autism.
Right now, our numbers are 1 in 32. 36 kids. For boys, it's a lot more common. So for every 5 boys, I see 1 girl. So it's actually 1 in 4 in terms of the statistics. And with girls, you're correct. A lot of times it's a little bit different because some of them are verbal, some of them have atypical behaviors, but they're usually not as clear-cut as boys. However, sometimes when you do find a girl, that's sometimes 3 times worse than 1 boy.
Dr. Saunders says the month is important to raise awareness about autism and the myths surrounding it. The cause of autism is still unknown, and the pediatrician had this to say on whether or not the numbers are on the rise.
We are definitely investigating just to try and figure out what's the cause, but awareness is what causes it to be seen more. So a lot of people think that the numbers are increasing. They may be increasing, but awareness is high. So a lot of parents, or not just parents, family members and friends, they're now able to, because of education and forums like these, we're able to pick up on kids that are delayed. And so the earlier we can pick up a kid, the earlier they can get diagnosed. And so early intervention and early diagnosis is key.
Still to come on Our News Weekend, meteorologist Ian McKenzie breaks down temperatures across the archipelago. Plus,
we talk about a program introducing Bahamian kids to motorsports and see what Bahamian college baseball players did over the weekend. Sports is next.
welcome back. We introduce you to the program introducing Bahamian youth to motorsports, and we catch up with Bahamian college baseball players. Tage Adderley is here with our Sports Weekend.
Thanks, Megan. Good evening. Welcome to the Our Sports Weekend Edition. I'm Tage Adderley. The EduKarting program seeks to introduce Bahamian youth to motorsports. We got the chance to go out there and see what they're doing.
EduKarting is actually an education program which uses motorsports to teach life skills.
That's Susan Schauf, Vice President of the Bahamas Motorsports Association. Her pet project is the EduKarting program, an ambitious youth outreach program designed to give access to motorsports racing to kids who wouldn't otherwise have the chance, while also teaching them hard work and leadership.
Everybody who signs up for EduKarting whenever we have the funding to run the camp is going to come into a team of 5 where everybody gets a job. One is going to be the designated driver, one is going to be the mechanic, one is going to be, which is quite exciting too, the marketing and PR person for that. One is going to be the finance CEO and one is going to be the team captain. They all have to work together as a team.
When we went to check out the program, which is officially sanctioned by the world's racing's international body, the FIA, young students were being taught the fundamentals of karting through a mini sprint, a simulator, and a slalom course.
Everybody's doing good, you know. Teamwork, I make sure all the helmets are safe, all the gloves, everything, make sure everybody's suits are tied up. I manage the whole team.
Program students have already traveled to the FIA Motorsports Games in France.
We were able to represent our country very lovely. We were even featured inside the French newspaper, and I believe everybody there just really loved us and adored us, and they're expecting us back this year for Spain.
Now, the program has an outreach component as well. They work with the Defense Force Rangers and they partner with the police to teach road safety, so they're doing a lot. Before we go, we're going to head to the Diamond, where a couple of Bahamian college baseball players did their thing. University of Memphis infielder Dante Stewart and Loyola Marymount outfielder Dylan Adderley hit the field this weekend. Stewart hit 2 singles and scored a run to help his Tigers beat the University of Texas San Antonio 12-5 last night. He's currently hitting .321 with an .834 OPS, trying to keep his Tigers in the win column. Adderley smacked a home run to right field to help his Lions get a 5-4 come-from-behind win against St. Mary's on Friday night. They're currently sitting on a 14-22 record. College and pro baseball seasons are starting to heat up, so be sure to tune in with us on our socials and on our websites for all the highlights. That is a wrap for sports this evening. For the Our Sports Weekend Edition, I'm Tage Adderley. Have an amazing week.
Thanks so much, Tage. Still to come, still standing. Our Joshua Williams climbs over 100 steps to bring you the story of one of the country's oldest lighthouses. You don't want to miss it. Stick with us. Welcome back and thanks for sticking with us. Well, it's about that time of the week to wind down and prepare for the work week ahead. As to what you can expect weather-wise, meteorologist Ian McKenzie joins us now with your weather forecast. Ian.
Thanks, Megan, and good evening, Bahamas. Welcome to your Sunday evening forecast. We are currently outside our studios. We're under clear skies with a temperature of 75, feels like of 71. Winds are from the east-northeast at 15 miles per hour. Current temperatures across the country at this time in our nation's second city, Freeport, we have 74, also in Allenstown, Bimini, 74 in Governor's Harbor as well, 75s in Great Harbor Key, the capital, and in Nicholstown, 73 in Marsh Harbor, Abaco. In the central Bahamas, continuing with those 75s in Kemps Bay, Arthurstown, Kidd Island, 76 in Georgetown, Deadman's Key, and in Coburn Town, San Salvador. For the southeast Bahamas, 78 in Duncantown, Electoral Bay, and Colonel Hill, Crooked Island, 77 in Abrahams Bay, 82 in Matthewtown, Inagua, and 79 in Providenciales, Turks and Caicos. Satellite picture at this time, we have few clouds, not much of a concern in terms of precipitation. Most of that, however, will be more concentrated across the southeast Bahamas, where we still have that raining front across that area. Elsewhere, high pressure remains large and in charge. Boating forecast, small craft should use caution across the northwest Bahamas and those swells. Winds will be northeast, east 10 to 15 knots, seas 2 to 4, but up to 6 feet offshore. High tide at 1:51 a.m., low tide at 8:29 a.m. tomorrow morning. For the central and southeast Bahamas, continuing with those caution and swells, winds northeast, east 15 to 20, seas 4 to 7 feet over the ocean. In your extended forecast, high pressure will remain the dominant weather feature, and this will translate into pleasant conditions pretty much into most of the week. We're looking at those high temperatures in the low 80s, but a bump up by the end of the week into the mid to upper 80s. Low temperatures remaining in the low 70s. That's a wrap in the evening forecast. Make it a great, safe, Fun night, everyone.
Thanks, Ian. Well, one of the oldest lighthouses in the country is still in operation despite a number of physical and manpower issues. Our Joshua Williams was in Inagua a few weeks ago spending time with the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, but he made time to take a quick visit to the lighthouse. Here's his report.
Although my main objective was to follow the Royal Bahamas Defense Force as they carry out their mission to protecting our borders in the southern Bahamas, I also took some time out to visit the lighthouse in Matthewtown, Inagua. Built in 1870 on the island of Great Inagua, the lighthouse has served as a beacon guiding ships into harbor. The lighthouse stands at 113 feet and offers visibility up to 17 miles at sea. Kevin Pickering is the lighthouse keeper.
Yes, I'm the only one for now. Caretaker. The only one for now. With 4 years, I never take vacation as yet because I have no one to replace me as yet. So, well, I just have to go with it.
A challenging climb up the over 100 steps ends in a beautiful panoramic view of the town and surrounding waters. The lighthouse, which operated on the kerosene wind-up system for years, is now solar-powered with batteries. While the use of modern technology is good, Pickering shares that there have been some challenges.
The other day, they had the labors off for 2 months because of the battery. We had to replace. But I put a temporary setup until my time bring the batteries and replace it back. We use a converter and convert the current from the main power, and we still had light there going on at least for 3 or 4 months before we get back to get the battery back in place and stuff.
There's also an issue of missing steps which is being addressed.
So right now we're doing some work. If you look around, we have a guy here doing some mason work on the lighthouse until further notice.
Despite all of it, the lighthouse remains a popular spot for locals and tourists.
I asked the administrator if we should close it down or not. Until then, he said no, let's leave it open because it's still usable. It's just a basic spot like for them to come and take pictures, and we have the Coast Guard, they come here every day, take pictures and videos.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
Thanks so much for that, Joshua, and thank you for joining us for Our News Weekend. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Megan Shepard. Have a safe and wonderful weekend.